Picture this. You step out of your apartment in the morning and see a package by your door. A nice surprise to start the day. The only weird thing is, you didn't order anything. No return address. Just your name, written by someone else's hand. You set the box aside and forget about it. But the next morning, there's a new one at your door. And what if the sender doesn't just know where you live? What if he watched you this morning smiling as you picked that box up off the floor? But where was he watching from? And most importantly, what was in those packages? Hello, horror lovers. Lady Mask is back. The one who never shows her face will tell you new creepy stories. Forget what you knew about fear. From now on, it's gonna speak in my voice. Turn off the lights. Let's start. My name is Mike. I live alone in a regular first-floor apartment. I work as a programmer, sometimes hit the gym, and I like watching shows. A typical young guy's life, nothing special. That morning, everything was as usual. I was running late, getting ready for work, trying to catch the bus. I rush out of the apartment and see a box by the door that looks like a package. Small, neat, all taped up. I looked at the name of the recipient. It had my name on it. I quickly brought it inside. No time to open it. I figured I'd open it in the evening and see what was inside. The day at work flew by almost unnoticed. In the evening, I hit the gym, did 30 minutes of cardio, and went home. To be honest, I completely forgot about it by the time I got home. I cut the tape with a knife and opened it. When I saw what was inside, I thought it had to be some kind of joke. Inside was a single teaspoon. Just a regular one. No packaging, just a teaspoon. I even laughed. People are losing it, sending spoons in the mail. Maybe it was a mistake, I thought. I turned the box around. It had my name on it, but no notes, no stickers. Nothing explaining where it came from. I tossed the spoon back into the box and went to sleep. The next morning, I wouldn't be myself if I weren't late again. I fly out the door and almost trip over a box. It was the same kind as yesterday, just bigger. I swore, threw it inside the apartment, didn't even bother reading what was written on it. I had no time to deal with what was inside or with whoever decided to bury me in garbage. I stayed at work until 8 p.m. I obviously didn't go to the gym. I dragged myself home with bags of food and see the box lying on the hallway floor. Oh, it's you again, lying here waiting for me, all right? Let's open you. Everything on the parcel was the same as last time. My name, my address, no return address. I open it and see a neatly folded gray t-shirt. Clean, like it had just been washed. I smirked. Well, that's better. At least they're sending something useful. I turned it in my hands, an oversized t-shirt, just how I like it, held it up to myself. Looks like it might even be my size. Honestly, I thought maybe my friend was messing with me or my girlfriend. I mean, who else would know my size? Okay, the t-shirt sort of made sense, but the spoon, that's where the question started. I didn't bother trying to figure it out. I went to the closet to hang the t-shirt. I opened the closet where all my t-shirts are. One hanger is empty. I look at the hanger, then at the t-shirt in my hands, then back at the hanger, then at the t-shirt again. No freaking way. This is my t-shirt. What the hell? My brain instantly switched into some other mode. I needed to check something. I quickly went to the box with the spoon, grabbed the box, and took it to the kitchen. I opened the cabinet. There are 3 spoons inside, and the 4th, exactly the same, is lying in the box in my hands. No way, are you kidding me? I actually felt creeped out. So what? My own things are being sent to me in these packages, but you can't take my stuff without getting into the apartment. It didn't just feel creepy. It felt straight up disturbing, almost disgusting, like someone stomped into your soul with dirty feet. I checked all the rooms, checked the front door, the windows, the balcony. Everything was locked. No traces, no dust, no dirt, nothing. Everything looked like I had simply lost my mind. But how, I thought. I stood in the middle of the kitchen, holding that t-shirt, trying to convince myself that maybe it was all much simpler. Maybe I really did leave it at the gym and someone found it and mailed it to me. No way, that's nonsense. Who would go through all that trouble over a basic t-shirt? Okay, fine, the t-shirt maybe, but the spoon? I had no answers there. I went to bed trying not to think about it. But just as I was falling asleep, I thought I heard a quiet floorboard creak in the next room. In the morning, I left for work. There was no new package by the door. You can't imagine the relief I felt. Good, it's over, I thought. I took a sip of the coffee I had brewed and poured into a paper cup at home, and headed to work feeling almost cheerful. When I got back in the evening, there was still no new package. Perfect, I thought again. I went to the kitchen to make dinner. I walk up to the table and see a mug on it. Just my mug, the orange one I bought at Starbucks. But hold on, I clearly remembered not taking it out this morning. I poured my coffee straight into a disposable paper cup and left. I stood there staring at the orange mug until I came up with an explanation. Maybe I really did take it out in the morning rush and forgot. That reasoning felt logical enough, and I calmed down. I walked out of the kitchen and went to the bedroom to put my phone on the charger. My charger always lies on the nightstand on the side of the bed where I sleep. I walk into the bedroom, look at the nightstand. The charger isn't there. I stood for a minute, not understanding where I could have moved it, then started looking around. Found it on the floor on the other side of the bed. I tried to rewind my actions and remember how I could have tossed it there. It was hard to recall because the charger always sits plugged into that outlet, and there's no way I threw it to the other side. All these little things, on their own, seemed like nothing, but together they were getting on my nerves. Nothing scary had happened, but something felt wrong. I paced around the room, trying to explain everything logically, but at some point I realized logic didn't work here anymore. And then I found the photograph. I needed to distract myself, so I put on a show. But honestly, I wasn't watching it. The plot was going right past me. All I could think about were the packages, the spoon, the t-shirt, the mug, the charger. Everything felt connected, but I couldn't figure out how. I got tired of staring at the TV and went to bed. I walk up to the bed, pull the blanket back, and see. There's a photograph lying on the pillow. It took me a moment to even understand what it was and why it was there, because nobody prints photos on paper anymore. I picked it up, trying to figure out what was on it. It was a closet, just a regular closet for clothes. Oh my God! That's my closet in my bedroom! The angle was weird though, shot from some unusual position. I tried to figure out the angle. Holding the photo, I walked to the closet, realized I was too close and needed to move farther back. I stepped back. As I walked backward, I bumped my legs into the bed. I looked at the photo again. Distance seems right, but it feels like the angle should be lower, I thought. I sat on the bed and looked at the photo again. The angle seemed closer, but it still felt like it needed to be even lower. I stood up and looked under the bed. No way, are you kidding me? In that moment, I desperately wanted to believe I was wrong. I slowly slid down to the floor and crawled under the bed feet first, lying on my stomach. I crawled all the way under the bed. I held the photo out, looked at the photo, then looked at the closet. It hit me like an electric shock. I got so terrified, you have no idea. And the most disgusting, and probably the scariest part, was that I wasn't wrong. The photo was taken from right here, from under the bed. I lay on the floor, not moving, feeling cold sweat running down my back, not understanding what was happening or how any of this was possible. I started putting the pieces together. So someone must have broken into my apartment while I was at work, crawled under the bed, took a picture, and left. Is that it? I thought. But what if the person who took the photo never left? What if he was lying under my bed while I was sleeping? That thought terrified me even more. I had to do something. The first thing that came to mind was to call the police immediately. I crawled out from under the bed, grabbed my phone, but froze, staring at the screen. What am I going to tell them? That someone slipped a photo of my own bedroom under my blanket? That I'm getting packages with my own things and no return address? That sounds insane. I have zero proof. The police will say, "Son, you're crazy. You're taking the photos yourself and leaving boxes with your name at your own door." Maybe the boxes have some clue for the police? I ran to the kitchen, grabbed one of the boxes, checked every side. I wanted at least to figure out which service delivered it, but there was nothing on them. No logo, no sticker, no tracking number, just cardboard wrapped in gray tape. and my name written by hand. I honestly got terrified just from the thought that someone wasn't just inside my apartment, but was under my bed while I slept. And who knows how it all could have ended. I decided to leave, anywhere, to friends, a hotel, another city, anything before it got worse. I only came back to the apartment a week later. First thing I did was install a camera by the front door and cameras inside the apartment, one in every room. Since then, nothing strange has happened. Either the cameras scared him off or he switched to another victim. I don't know. At least there were no more packages with my name, but no return address. That's the story. Stay safe. Yours, Mike. Sometimes someone enters your place without knocking, and sometimes you're the one who goes somewhere you really shouldn't meet anyone at all. Picture the basement of an old house late at night, that eerie feeling. You're going down there for just a couple of minutes, to throw dirty clothes into the washing machine and get back upstairs. But tonight, in the dim back of the room, there's a man you've never seen before. He's new to the building, he's polite, and he knows way too much about you. A couple of years ago, I lived in an old townhouse on the edge of the city. A typical quiet neighborhood during the day, but at night it was better not to go outside. I lived alone, so I chose a place that was cheaper, to be honest. The house had 2 floors and 4 apartments total, 2 on the first floor and 2 on the second. I lived upstairs. There was also a basement, where the central heating boiler was, and 2 washing machines. Those were the ones I used for laundry. My dad always told me, money doesn't come easy. If you want to live well, you have to work a lot and work hard. So that's what I did, working 2 jobs. My main job during the day and freelancing at night, sitting at my laptop until late, sometimes until midnight. Any basic cleaning I did was always last on the list. That evening was going like any other until I went down to the basement. It was around 12:30 a.m. I gathered all my dirty clothes into a laundry basket and went downstairs. When I opened the basement door, the light was already on. That surprised me a little. Usually at that hour, I was the only one doing laundry. The other tenants were apparently less busy and did their chores during the day. A man was standing by one of the washing machines with a basket of clothes. When I walked in, he stared directly at me. Honestly, I got scared for a second. At first it was fear, then this sharp internal discomfort, because he was staring without blinking. You know how Hannibal Lecter looked at Clarice the first time they met in that movie? We froze for a moment, like neither of us expected anyone else to come down here at this time. He looked calm, way too calm, dressed in home clothes. I needed to start some small talk to break the tension, so I spoke first. "Good night, I haven't seen you here before. Did you just move in?" He said he'd moved in that evening and decided to freshen up his clothes after the move. He didn't say his name, didn't offer to shake hands, didn't try to introduce himself. I didn't push it either. While the washing machine was humming, we stayed silent. Before leaving, he suddenly asked, "Do you live alone?" I told him, "Yeah, I live alone." "Why?" He went quiet for about 3 seconds, then said, "Oh, nothing, just making conversation." The wash is done, and now he wants to make conversation? Weird guy, I thought. And that awkward pause, like he was trying to figure out why he even asked that. When I finished my laundry, I folded my clothes and headed to the exit. As I closed the door behind me, he was still standing there, not blinking, staring at me. Seriously, why even ask if I live alone? That night after doing laundry, I stayed up working longer than usual. I planned to go to bed at 2, but as always, I got sucked into the work completely. When I finally shut the laptop, it was almost 3. I collapsed into bed, feeling my whole body buzzing from exhaustion. Fell asleep instantly. I woke up at 7 feeling wrecked, like I hadn't slept at all. The morning was foggy in that autumn way, and the heating in the apartment was barely warming anything. I stepped out with a cup of coffee and ran into that neighbor again, right by the stairs. He looked just as calm as before, holding a backpack like he'd already slept well and had breakfast. "Oh, you again," I said. "Second time we've met in a day." "Yeah, happens," he replied. "You didn't sleep well, did you?" "Yeah," I smirked. "You can tell by my face, huh?" He tilted his head slightly. No, it's just that your light was on until 3. He said that and walked down the stairs. I stood there for 5 seconds, not understanding anything at all. How could he know I was awake until 3? All day I couldn't get that sentence out of my head. The light was on until 3. How would he know that? Then I tried connecting his question about whether I live alone with this comment about the light. The more I thought about it, the more annoyed I got at my own suspicion. I mean, I'm an adult, not some kid afraid of going into the basement. But still, what else was I supposed to think when someone who just moved in is already acting, I would say, not exactly normal? In the evening, I deliberately didn't turn on the main light. I left only the desk lamp on. Again, I worked late. It was around 1 in the morning. I stood up to stretch and rest my eyes. The doctor had told me to look into the distance every hour to relieve eye strain. I walked up to the window, and in my peripheral vision, I noticed a sudden movement between the trees. Honestly, I got scared for a second, then started doubting myself. Maybe it was just my imagination. I stepped back to the desk and turned off the lamp so I could see better in the dark. I walked to the window and stared at the spot where I thought I'd seen someone. This time, I saw it clearly. Someone was standing between the tree trunks, completely still, almost blending into the darkness. I swear someone was there. I squinted but couldn't see the face, just the outline of a person in a hoodie with the hood up. I cursed under my breath and quickly went to check if I had locked the front door. That person didn't look like a random passerby. Whether it was my new neighbor or someone else, I didn't know. But they were watching me. The next day, late in the evening, I went to the washing machines again. The light was already on, so I immediately knew the neighbor was down there. When I went downstairs, I saw him sorting clothes from a basket and carefully placing each piece into the washer. I tried to look calm and not show anything. We greeted each other, and I didn't waste time. I asked right away, a bit boldly, hoping to catch him off guard. "Where were you last night?" He looked surprised for a second, put a t-shirt into the washer, then answered, "Stayed at my girlfriend's. Why?" His voice was normal, not a hint of lying. Honestly, I didn't expect that answer. It felt like someone dumped cold water on me, snapped me back to reality. Maybe I really am getting paranoid from overtime and losing it, I thought. I nodded, pretending I was satisfied with the answer. I stepped toward the washer and put my basket on top. We both stood there silently moving clothes from our baskets to the machines when I noticed a dark hoodie with a hood in his basket. He caught my glance and calmly closed the washer lid. I didn't wait for the cycle to finish and quickly went back to my apartment, locked every lock, turned off every light. I sat on the couch trying to convince myself that plenty of people wear hoodies like that, and it was all just a coincidence. And there wasn't any 100% guarantee that the hoodie in the dark and the hoodie in the washer were the same one. But my brain was absolutely refusing to accept that deal. Probably 2 hours passed. I set the wash cycle to 1 hour, meaning for a full hour I purposely didn't go down so I wouldn't run into him again. I sat there waiting for what exactly, I didn't know, but waiting. I guess I was just scared to go out. Of course I was scared. I'm generally afraid of strangers. Suddenly, a knock on the door. I stayed silent. Then another 2 knocks. I stayed silent again, not moving at all. I think I even stopped breathing while the knocking continued. I waited for a 3rd knock. Silence. I carefully tiptoed to the door, trying not to make a single sound, pressed my ear against it. Stood and listened. I didn't look through the peephole, because if someone was outside, they'd see me looking. It was quiet on the other side. I never went to pick up my laundry and just went to bed. Tossed and turned, couldn't fall asleep for a long time because I was so on edge. In the morning, I was getting ready for work. As I walked past the neighbor's apartment, I noticed the door was open. I stepped closer, knocked a couple of times, called out to him. Silence. My adrenaline shot through the roof. My heart was beating so fast I thought it was going to burst out of my chest. I called out again. Silence. So I decided to go inside. I don't know what I was thinking, but I walked in. In the entryway were military boots, the soles covered in fresh dirt. On the coat rack hung a dark bomber jacket, and next to it a dark hoodie with a hood. The same hoodie. Any desire to go farther disappeared instantly. The puzzle came together. I quietly walked out, closed the door, and rushed to work. That same day, I filed for vacation and left for 2 weeks without returning to my apartment. I never saw him again. The neighboring apartment stayed empty for a long time. Who he was and why he watched me and asked those questions, I'll never know. And honestly, I don't want to. I hope you enjoyed these stories. Thank you for writing comments. I read them all, and thank you for the support. I really appreciate it. Have a good rest and a peaceful night. Don't wander too far from Lady Mask. See you in the next episodes.